Hello there. Welcome to GMI, the Guitar and Music Institute podcast, episode number 16. My name is Jed Brocky. This is the first in a series of podcasts devoted to helping those musicians who want to move online, and will feature interviews with musicians who are already making a living online through various means, such as YouTube, blogging, Twitter, and radio broadcasts, etc. First up is David Wallimann. David has a YouTube channel with over 77,000 subscribers. I'll be talking in depth with David about his life, how he managed to grow such an impressive number of subscribers, and the advice that he can give to anyone out there who's looking to do the same on YouTube. David explains the trials and tribulations of getting there and the things that actually helped him make his channel into a success. If you come to the Guitar and Music Institute website at www.guitarandmusicinstitute.com, you'll be able to get links about David's work, his channel, various interviews, pictures and videos. And his videos really are exceptional. If you're listening on iTunes or any of our download sites around the world, then come on over because you'll get a lot more content actually on the GMI website. So coming up is an interview with David Wallimann talking all about musicians moving online. David, it's a real pleasure to have you on the show today. Thanks for doing this interview with GMI.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm honored. Thank you.
Now, Wallimann, that sounds like Walloon. Do you have any sort of Belgian type background to you? What's going on there?
Actually, yes. It's the family name comes from Germany and Swiss. So Swiss, German in that area. But it's from a long time ago.
Right. So because I was a wee bit confused when I started finding out all about you, because I thought you were actually in France or something. Tell us about that.
Yeah, a lot of people get confused. I think the reason why is that because my English is a little better than the typical French person.
That's good. Can you do that accent? We'll get the female ratings up. In fact, I was talking to a friend of mine doing an interview on this. He's a sort of top producer, and he lives, well, he's moved over to another part of Scotland, but he's recorded Stephen Grappelli, and he's going. I said, you recorded Stephen Grappelli? What was that like? He says, all he ever said was more reverb, monsieur, more reverb.
That's very accurate. Yes, that's how we sound like usually.
So, David, you're a very well known and talented guitarist. I know that, but
thank you.
There's a lot of people out there around the world, and right over, for some bizarre reason, this podcast seems to be very popular in America. It must be the accent, but anyway, it's because I put so much bass on in post, But could you tell the people out listening just a little about yourself, a potted history of your life as a musician, how you got into it, and maybe you could tell us a wee bit about Glass Hammer.
Sure, absolutely. So to go back to your previous question too, I was born in France, so that's why there's some confusion. I'm Franco-American. My dad's French, my mom's American. Was born in France, grew up in France.
Where about?
And South France, in the South, French Riviera.
I know it well.
Aix-en-Provence is where I'm from.
Beautiful.
So I was born and raised there, and always loved music. And before getting to guitar, I was always loved harmony and composing in my head and all that. And then discovered guitar when I was 15. Some high school friends.
So you were hanging out in Catholic churches singing all the time, yeah?
That's right. Yeah. maybe not, but
let's not go there for goodness sakes.
Yeah. So I fell into the guitar thing around 15, moved to the States later in life, when I was, I think, 26 or so.
So what took you there then, David?
Frustration and a breakup.
Well,
both together. So
she must have been very beautiful to go that far.
Well, there were several elements, but really the main reason is that I felt that my career in France, where I wanted to be, just didn't work. And the reason I chose America is not necessarily because there's this some people have fantasy of America as the dreamland where all the musicians can make it. The reason I moved is that I had an in. My mother being American, I had dual citizenship. Right. And I thought changing countries, changing places would help me get out of some of the patterns that you have in the same place all the time. So discovering something new would probably inspire me to try to do something out of my musical life. And that's why I moved to the States.
So was it really about trying to get rid of your Gallic shrug?
That's exactly it. I've never heard that expression, but it makes total sense. Yes.
You'd obviously been playing a lot, and maybe you didn't. You needed to be more Sidney Bechet. You maybe needed a stronger vibrato like B.B. King. What do you think?
Maybe that's it too. Maybe a little bit of that. It's interesting that you mentioned that because my playing did change after moving gradually, and I don't think the change would have happened if I stayed in France. Change in technique and expression and all that.
You know, Sidney Bechet, for example, I know it's a different instrument, different time, but as far as I know, he found it difficult to be accepted in America, and yet he was loved in France.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm not quite sure why, but yeah, I'm not sure.
A change of scene for us is always a good thing.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think it's true for anything, whether it's music or anything. It's always good to discover new things, I think.
So I'm blethering on here, David. Carry on. You've been playing guitar, obviously, before you moved to America, yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so yes, when I moved, I moved to the South first for some odd reason. Like, my mother's not from the South, but I moved to the South to a town called Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Did you see the train?
I did. The choo-choo, yeah, Chattanooga choo-choo. I didn't know you knew that on your across the pond, on that side of the pond. I did. and the thing is, when I moved there, I managed to write I was writing my music, and then there was a compilation, a progressive rock compilation that came out, and I was part of this group online. My song was accepted for the compilation, but every artist needed to record a short presentation, like a little interview type of thing, just talking about their song. Mm-hmm. And I had nothing at the time. I just had that song. I didn't have a microphone, nothing to record. I got connected to this studio in Chattanooga, Tennessee, where I could do that interview thing. And the cool thing is that the people at the studio were also artists, and they had a song on that compilation, and they were Glass Hammer, the band Glass Hammer.
Wow.
And that's how I got into the band.
I've been reading all about them. It's really big.
Yeah, I know. And I had no idea. When I joined them, I had no idea that they were that successful.
The thing is, when my two boys were we went to see Lord of the Rings and all that, and I fell asleep.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I actually fell asleep. I was looking forward to it, and I fell asleep. Everyone that came out, I just thought, brilliant, I can get 3 hours nap here as they watch the fight. And that's what Glass Hammer inspired them, wasn't it? Wasn't it all that stuff?
Yeah, they still are really inspired by all that world, the elves and wizards. And
Did they dress up? Did they dress up in sort of long coats and stuff?
Not when I was around. They should have. Maybe they would have been more successful.
I mean, think all the plastic toys they could be selling, man. Come on.
Oh, yes. I know. It's crazy.
What year was this then?
It kind of gets blurred in my mind, but I want to say maybe 10 years ago or so.
Okay. And did you go touring with the guys?
Yeah, they started really touring and performing after I left the band.
So basically, once she's gone, then we'll start.
Yeah, they were waiting for my departure. No, what happened is that they were known for their albums. They didn't tour much. They did a few festivals here and there. I did one with them, but they were really known for their concept albums. And I recorded 1 or 2 with them, and then I moved to Colorado, which is another story. But and we were still working together when I was here, but I found it like too difficult. Plus, if there were to be gigs, like me being in Colorado, them in Tennessee, it was just complicated and
difficult.
And we wanted to start a family and all that. And I was like, no, guys, just find someone good I know you'll find someone and do your thing. And they did, but we were still really good friends.
This is the incredible thing, isn't it, about music and being a professional musician? I mean, there are just so many great players in the world.
There are, yes, and they're easier to find too today, I think.
Do you think we're deceiving ourselves in our brief moments of, oh, I'm a good player? Actually, it's not that hard. What do you think?
Well, I think there should be a healthy balance, because I've met so many players who hate their playing and they're continuously unsatisfied, and some top guys like name anyone, I guess. There's so many players who are so good and they hate their playing, and then you have the other way where players like they think they're all that. And I think there should be a healthy balance. I think if you really dislike your playing all the time, maybe you need to take a break and come back to it and in a fresh way. There just should be a healthy balance, I think.
I always think people who hate their playing, there's a certain conceit. I mean, really hate their playing all the time. There's a certain conceit in that very act, you know?
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, and I think sometimes I also found that when you say, "Oh, I really like you," if I recorded something and I say, "I really like this, really like it," it can come across as arrogant, which, you know, you want to hide that. You don't want to be arrogant, but it's not. It's just, I think it's okay to be happy with some of the things you come up with.
When I record stuff and play stuff, I'm at peace with what I do and I really like it. Trouble is, no one else does.
Yes, exactly. Yes, and I think that's key right there.
Hey, David, you ever been in that scenario when you're playing a live gig and you've done a solo and you thought, that really made sense, and there's just silence? You probably haven't. I certainly have.
That happens too, yes.
Yeah, it made total sense to me.
Yes, yeah, that happens too, yeah.
Well, that's interesting, because I want to come on to your YouTube channel later, but one of the things that I really think makes a difference with you, because the people listening out there, David's got a growing YouTube channel. Over 77,000 people have actually subscribed to it. And I think one of the main things about David's channel is the fact that he's a personable person. When you're talking on that YouTube channel, you're very open, you're very friendly, and you know, just watching you do your stuff, you know, I felt a connection there, and I think that's an important part of it, because having looked at your YouTube channel, and I'm talking about YouTube channels, and I didn't want to do that yet, but here we go. We'll go back to where we came later. This is how my interviews go, I'm afraid, David. I did notice that, as usual, the most watched videos were all the bog standard usual stuff, like pentatonics and minor licks and stuff. These are
like, I know.
Everybody's trying to do all this stuff, but no one's interested. They just want the minor pentatonics. What do you think?
Yes, that's so true, and I could get into it a little bit, but it's part of it is a little bit frustrating, if I'm honest.
Good, that's what I want to hear.
But it's necessary.
Yeah, well, I shouldn't, as usual, be even talking about this, because that'll come later. I'm really enjoying hearing about your life. So, you're now in Colorado, is that right?
Yes.
And you've with your partner, you decided to, you know, put up sticks and start a family and all that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And is that a natural progression of how you then came on to work online?
Actually, yeah, I think I don't know that it was calculated that way, but it fits the global picture. I think it was a combination of me wanting to, start a family, but also it came out of frustration with a couple things, like teaching one-on-one, which I love teaching, that I was getting really, really burned out, and I needed something different. And so I decided, well, instead of teaching one-on-one, I'm going to film one lesson, and when someone wants to learn that thing, I'll direct them to that lesson. There was also a frustration of wanting to be able to make a living as a musician without touring, which I've never done. I've never done a tour in my life, but I don't have that much interest setting up gear and traveling in a little bus. And I think it's great for those who like it, but that is never me. And I like gigging, but it's not my favorite thing to do. So I thought, well, maybe I can have a business where I sell things that don't require me to do the work as it's being sold. So that's like producing lessons that I can sell or albums or that kind of thing. And I didn't have anything like that yet, but I thought the first thing I need to do is have an audience before I even have a product to sell. And that's kind of what started the channel. So it's kind of all mixed together.
You can absolutely correct me, and I know you will if I'm wrong, but listening to your playing, I heard various influences, we'll say.
Mm-hmm.
Any of these strike any keys with you? Robin Ford? Do you like Robin?
I do. I love him.
Okay, Larry Carlton?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I guess, therefore, it runs into you like Lee Ritenour.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Now, I love that.
Now, the last one I'm going to ask you about, which just came into my noggin right now, is someone who famously, I think, said, and actually did live here in Edinburgh in Scotland for a while, who was going mental about the state of the industry and why should I work for nothing. Are you influenced by Frank Gambale?
Yes, Frank is awesome. Yes.
Yeah. Well, he I think I'm right in saying he said that, and it came across as quite bitter, and I can understand why. This podcast is about you and about your music and the services you are, but I also hoped we could help people out there who are maybe at the point you were when you went to Colorado and are thinking about getting online. And I'm sure your expertise, David, you'll be able to give some insights. What do you feel about the whole way that the industry has moved? I keep saying this and I hate this phrase, this digital revolution has changed everything. What's your overall feelings about it?
My feelings is that I like it. I like it in the sense that it's new. However, I can completely understand the frustration that some musicians have, because it's true that today, doing the old school way, which was starting a band, playing many gigs, and then expanding those gigs, and then doing festivals, that could still work, but it's not successful as it used to be, I think. And so a lot of musicians think, well, that's it. There's no more way of doing it. However, I think that because of the new technology, there's actually a lot of ways, but it just requires a different way of thinking about it. I think the reason, and I'm not saying that it's a problem, but it can be, I think one of the reasons why many musicians struggle making a living today is that they spend all their creative juice on the instrument, which is cool. It's great on music. But I think you need to keep a little bit of that creativity towards your business, like marketing and things like that. Instead of just studying books on marketing, just use some of your creative mind towards those things. And I think a combination of creative musicality and creative entrepreneurship is part of the key to success, I think.
We're getting into the meat and potatoes of all of this, David. Can you tell us a little about the provision that you actually give online? We've talked a little about your YouTube channel, and we will talk about that in depth a little later. What other main social areas or sites are you going through? And I know there's lots because I've been checking them all out. But maybe you could tell us, the listeners.
Yeah, the main one is really YouTube. That's the main one that I've focused on. I kind of decided early on that I'm going to focus on one platform, and then the others I'll just do as I feel like I need to do something. So Facebook a little bit and a little bit of Twitter, but really the main thing has always been YouTube for me.
And how about, you're on Jamplay? Is that much of interest to you?
So the story with Jamplay is that when I moved to Colorado, at the time my personal business was not doing great. And I needed something, but I didn't want to have a regular job. And I had just come from another website, guitarmasterclass.net, to do similar things, where, from home, you just film your lessons and sell them. I had stopped working with them because I thought I could make more somewhere else. And, but to be honest, great guys. I'm still friends with all of them, but, had to move on. I just searched on Google for different sites and emailed them and emailed Jamplay. And Jamplay emailed me back and they said, hey, we live 5 miles from where you are.
Incredible.
Like, completely random. I call it a God thing. God led me towards that site. And so that's how I started working with them, doing contract work. And every once in a while, I go to their studio and film some content for them.
Yeah, they're busy doing some sort of crowdfunding thing, aren't they, to really ratchet the whole thing up?
They might be. I don't know. I don't pay much attention to what not that I don't care. I just haven't lately.
You see people listening to this, musicians listening to this who may not be online or who may be online and maybe not doing too well or lacking focus or whatever. Do you think going online is much more monetary orientated reason for doing it than playing live? Now, with that, I know you get paid for playing live, but it's a lot of work, isn't it?
There's a lot of work, yes. I don't know that it's better to do it online for everyone. I know that it has for me, but that's also my personality, who much rather work from home than traveling. And some people love playing live, and that's awesome. I think it's great. I don't dislike it, but it's not my passion. My passion is just being in my room and writing music and producing content. That's what I love doing.
And that's exactly what you're doing.
Yeah. So I'm happy.
Okay, you are listening to me, Jed Brockey, in conversation with David Wallimann, who's over in Colorado. Can't even say it, Colorado. If you like what you're listening to and you want to know more, please come over to the GMI, the Guitar Music Institute website at www.guitarmusicinstitute.com, where you can see videos of David, links to David's sites and his work, and, well, more. I can't think of what more, but I'm sure there will be more. So I'm really enjoying this interview, David. It's great to talk to a fellow pro all these miles away. I'm going to ask you the spiky question, although you don't have to be detailed. Do you make a living from what you're doing?
I do. And it's the last 9 months have been much better than the last 9 years.
So,
because
wow. The last 9 months have been better than the last 9 years.
Maybe not all combined. I'm not saying like all combined, but yes, financially, I'm doing much better in the last 9 months than I have before.
So how long did it take before you actually saw some meaningful income coming back to you from all the work that you're putting online?
About 9 years.
Wow.
But that does not mean that that's going to be the case for everyone. I know why for me. The reason is I didn't have a strategy, and I read about business stuff, online marketing, advertisements, sales funnels, all those things. And that is very overwhelming to me, and had countless sleepless nights stressing out about it for years. I would literally start putting in place something that I read in a book, even spend hard-earned money on developing a website or whatever it is. All of those just kind of like flopped. It just did not work. I would keep reading and start over until about 9 months ago. What I did is I tried to figure out what all these people were doing, like all these marketers, what is the common thing that they're all saying, and make my own kind of strategy. And it came down to, I actually made a video. I'll send you the link. Maybe you can link to that somewhere on your page.
Of course, yeah.
But basically, in a nutshell, it's instead of selling the product first, that's the final thing that will happen. Whatever the product, doesn't have to be music.
Is that the bottom of the funnel, David?
That's it. Exactly. Yes. That's it. Really. And the main thing is relationships, because a friend is much more likely to help you out than a complete stranger.
Well, it's kind of funny. Every time I ask friends for money, they always say no.
Maybe you need to change friends.
Yeah, you know what? That's a good idea. I'm going to have to find some first. So that's very interesting, because, as I said, and I'm not just being nice to you, it really came across loud and clear on your YouTube channel that, you know, you were in. You're talking to a camera. There's no one there. When you watch my videos, I've usually got a scowl on my face, but with you, I felt you were really talking to me, and I try and do that as well, obviously, but I really just like the way you address the camera. It seems personal, and, you know, you seem happy to be there and all the rest of it, and give your information.
Thank you. And that took a while for me to get there. But for those listening, and those following me, I don't want you guys to think that I'm pretending to be your friend. I really do care. And I think that's the secret behind it too. Like, if someone watches me or has a relationship with me for like their life, and I help them out, and they help me out, and they never buy anything from me, that's fine. Like, the most important thing is like those relationships, that even in the virtual world that I can have through email or whatever, that's really the biggest thing. If you don't really care and you're pretending, then people are going to see, they might buy one thing from you and then they're going to give up. You're going to have bad reviews online and whatever, and they're going to sense it. And I'm not like that. I really do care.
There's no hiding place out there. Yeah, well, the thing that I see, David, online is, and for years I was looking at all these things, most of the people who are for a huge amount of people who are selling things online, they're not actually selling anything other than systems on how to sell online.
Yes, that's right. And in the years of my learning online marketing, I've noticed that, and that has been so frustrating. And I thought, I'm never going to be able to make money on teaching people how to, use modes. And but I didn't give up, and I tried to find like the common thing that all these guys were saying and put it in place. And that's the reason of the growth that I was just telling you about. So it's definitely possible.
So what steps, if someone is either wanting to get into it or is into it and isn't getting anywhere, what would you say they should do to start seeing some meaningful growth? Good
question. Well, first of all, you need a product, and you need to have something that's kind of defined and really targeted, something that not too broad, something super targeted, even if it means that you're going to eliminate a lot of people, because a lot of business people who start, or musicians, because a lot of musicians are not business guys. I was not. I started after. Think that, okay, I've got to target the whole world because that's more people.
Yes.
But the problem is, like, you can't speak really to the whole world. It's impossible. Just focus on the smallest, they call it a niche, that you can, like really, really small. But I think if you really target like a small percentage of the population, then it's easier for you to become an authority in that smaller circle. And there's going to be a lot more people, following you.
So are you finding that there are similarities between the people that listen to you? Are they a kind of person then?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Usually those who are completely different are not going to like me anyways. Well, maybe not stylistically, but if there's not that human connection, then they're not going to like me, and that's okay. Like, we're not going to be friends.
So are you saying that the people that follow you are people who would like to be you?
Well, it's funny that you say this, because my thing is like, nobody can play the way you play.
Yes.
So you shouldn't be me because you're not serving yourself. You're better than me because you're a you. Basically, that's the idea.
That's very interesting. So ultimately, you're saying be true unto yourself.
Yeah, exactly. I've always believed, from a personal experience, and maybe we can get into it later, but that there is something really unique within musicians, like a song that we all have or that we hear that is inside of you. For me, happiness came when I was able to bring that out. And I want to share that happiness with anyone. Yeah, I don't know why I'm saying that, but hopefully it made sense.
It does make sense. And I actually did a podcast, a solo podcast, can you believe it, on just the language of music and how music is a language, and no one goes around, well, most normal people don't go around the country that they live in speaking the language that whatever they speak, judging other people's language skills, generally speaking. And yet in music we feel we can do that when actually it's a language which we can feel inside and express ourselves, and that's what you want to be able to speak fluently in the language of music.
Yeah, that's That's spot on. That's exactly it. I love hearing your voice because it's you. It's unique. Nobody has it. I could try to imitate it, but it would be horrible and offensive, and vice versa. But I love it. It's awesome. And I think, yeah, you're right. In music, it's the same exact thing. I think my job as a guitar teacher is to help students be truer to their voice. Sometimes they have something in their mind they want to express and they can't because of any kind of limitation. Maybe it's a theory thing, maybe it's a technical thing. But that's my goal, to bring that out of you and help me in the process too.
Excellent. So, David, I don't know how far you can go into this, but let's see how it goes. I mean, YouTube is, we all know that you get about 0.0001 of a cent of advertising revenues. How have you actually managed to monetize your offering?
YouTube by itself, you're right. There's ads on there, and it doesn't pay much. Right now, as far as views, there is a growth, and I don't feel that it's as big as it should be because I've been doing it for 9 years. But just to give you an idea, I get about 10,000 views a day.
Wow! And
monthly, I make about $400 on that. So just 10,000 times 30. That's the amount of views.
That's all right. That'll pay for your messages. Sorry, groceries. That'll pay for your groceries.
Yes, exactly. It's definitely a plus, but it took a while. But the thing is, like, it's been making that amount of money for years, even before I had that amount of subscribers. So it's not necessarily increasing the way that I want. But all that to say that, yes, it's a nice bonus, definitely. But besides that, the real revenue for me is from the courses that I sell. After that, I get the top of the funnel is YouTube. That's where I make a connection.
This funnel, it's all over the place, isn't it?
I know, it's everywhere.
Funnel hell.
Yes, I know. But then if people want to go a little further, they sign up to get the tabs from me or a backing track or whatever. And then they're on my email newsletter. And it's in that newsletter that a potential sale is made. And if not, that's all right.
So it's a little like one of those, what are they called? Picture plants. You know, the fly goes in the top and then it smells some stuff. And slowly it goes a little further in and then it realizes it can't get out.
No, you can get out. Okay, yeah. It sounds very sneaky. It sounds like, oh, I'm all about the money like that. That's not the case. They can leave the funnel anytime.
All right, okay.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, folks, you heard it here. You can leave the funnel.
Yes, absolutely. And we're still friends. It's all good. But it's not all, like, not every email is like, hey, buy my stuff. Mm-hmm. It's like, most of the time, it's like free stuff that I give out because I care.
Have you heard of a guy called Tim Schmoyer?
Yes, I had a consultation with him last month.
Ah, really? Did he have his baseball hat on?
I think he did.
Do you know,
such a nice guy.
Every time I actually tune into Tim Schmoyer's channel, he's having another child.
Yeah, that's right. I know. He's a family guy.
Just as well.
Yes. But he's such a nice guy. Like, sometimes you see someone on YouTube and you think, oh, they seem really nice. And then you talk to them. It's like, really? This guy is like really nice. Really, really nice. He's a great guy.
Did you find that Tim's advice was helped you in any way, David?
Yeah, very much. I have to be honest. So the call was an hour. It was recorded. And during the hour, I felt that it was great. He was a nice guy, genuine and all that. But I thought, I don't know if it's worth the money that I paid of this advice.
All right, but, so you paid for this?
Oh, yeah. Yes, he does paid consultations.
Right.
But then I listened to it again, and I missed so many invaluable things during the conversation that I've started to put in place, and it has been really good, and I have seen growth in my YouTube channel for little things like that.
It's just that the way you talk about learning and your channel and all the rest of it reminded me of Tim's approach, that was all.
Yep, and he's very much one of the reasons for it, because he gave me advice that has paid off, for sure.
Fantastic. So, about the future, what do you see as the future for your growth and your channel and online presence, David?
I don't know if I see it, but I'd like it. What I would really like is to transition, still do that, the YouTube stuff and the online courses, but I'd like to get outside of the office soon.
Yeah, can
just
be
get outside.
A bit of a prison, can't it?
Yes, exactly. But that was really always kind of the goal when I started. I just didn't want to be a slave to it. I didn't want to be a slave to touring and gigs and all that. I wanted to do it on my terms, if possible.
You're so selfish.
Well, I hope not. but I'm not hurting anyone, right?
Exactly. Now you recently did am I right in saying you did a crowdfunding appeal for an album? Can you tell us all about that?
Yeah. So that album, Evolving Seeds of Glory, ties into what I prefaced a little while back. I told you there's a song hidden in each of us. Mm-hmm. Well, before I moved to the States, I went through a year of really heavy depression, really, really hard.
Oh, right.
And so I took, all I remember from that phase is that I took long walks, and we don't have to, I know it's a public podcast, we don't have to get into spirituality, but I prayed for all that time, all those walks, and that was really helpful for me rediscovering who I was and all that. And on those walks, I started to hear, like in my heart, music, little things, like sometimes you compose in your head.
Usually when I'm doing the dishes, which isn't that very often.
Yeah, but you get it though. You hear something. But this was different because I really loved what I was hearing, and not in an arrogant way, because I think that what I heard was from God.
Okay.
Okay, maybe you might cut this. I don't know. I don't want to appear like a weirdo.
No, don't worry. It's all going to be included, David.
Okay, that's okay.
I'm giving you enough rope.
I'll just, okay, let's just roll with it.
This is what people want. They want to hear the real you.
Yeah, well, there it is. And I'm usually very down to earth guy. I think I'm not the typical artist, heads in the clouds all the time. I think I'm pretty, stable. Uh-huh. But at that time, like I heard that on one walk, and I was like, okay, that's really cool. And I was really touched.
You didn't have an iPod on at the time or anything?
No, nothing. Right. Like just me in the nature walking at night, nothing. And the next day I heard it again, but it was a little clearer. And it kept going. Every single day I would hear a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And it was really touching. It was not like I have to actively compose in my head as I'm walking. It was just really me listening within, and it just came. And it brought me to tears several times. Like, it was really, really touching. And so I decided to reproduce what I was hearing, recording demos, and that was maybe 12, 13 years ago. And that became the album, Evolving Seeds of Glory. Now, when I say that, I don't want people to think that get the album and you will be touched like I was, and it's the music from God. And no, that's just me, my personal rendition of what I heard. What I heard was way more beautiful than the album. But anyways, I had the album, and for 10 years it was there, and I was working on it, and I went through different drummers, and there was always problems. The drummers were great, but sound problems and issues. And so finally I decided to hire Nick DiVergilio, who's done a lot of work. He's known for his work with Spock's Beard at the time.
Great name.
Yeah, he's awesome.
If you want to get ahead, get a good name. I'm thinking of changing my name to Jed Caracas,
Yes. Yeah, so not only a great name, but an incredible musician. And I was following him on Facebook. He had left the band, Spock's Beard, doing other stuff. And then he was in Cirque du Soleil, touring with them, and then stopped that to do other things. I don't know what. And he said, if you guys have any work, let me know. And I contacted him, and long story short, he re-recorded all the drums of the album. And that was the foundation on which I added everything that I had been recording before, but professionally, and that became the album. And so the crowdfunding thing was to pay Nick to record the drums.
Wonderful. And any tips that you can give people out there when do crowdfunding? Because let's face it, everyone's on there saying, please give me money for my album. How did it work for you, David? I was interviewing a person just a couple of weeks ago who put up a crowdfunding thing for a portable amp, and he's got $200,000 of pre-sales.
Wow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it works for some people and not for others. How did it work for you?
So this was the second crowdfunding that I've done. The first one was not successful. That was for my website, Guitar Playback. I wanted to revisit it. The second one was I made the budget, but I had a lot of following on YouTube who helped me out.
Fantastic.
But I will say, like, if I do one again, I'm going to do it differently, because this one, I crowdfunded the thing and then to get the money to record the drums. And then I had a lot of work after that. And I was able to fulfill all the rewards for the pledges, but way out of the timing that I had set. So next one, I'm going to make sure that I have everything ready except the one thing that I need money for. Right. And have everything else ready so I can deliver quick. Because then, like, I got one guy, I don't blame him at all, but he had pledged quite a bit of money and asked for a refund, which I refunded him because it took so long. I don't blame him at all. I totally get it. But then you get into that kind of problems, and that's the only tip I would give. That's
really great that your relationship with the people that follow, I don't want to call them fans, I'll call them followers.
Yeah.
They rate your tuition and you and your music enough to take a punt. All right, they're getting something for it, but in a way they're helping to promote the art. Was that through Patreon?
It was through Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Kickstarter, yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely wonderful. And that comes back to that whole thing about the relationship you have with people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we were talking about the future. You're moving closer to where you want to be, and I guess it's been quite a long journey, hasn't it? Well, there are times in this, and I hate that phrase, by the way, we're all on a journey. You know, we're ultimately all on a journey to death.
Yeah. Yes.
But that's but on your journey, were there times in it where you thought, you know what, this just isn't working at all?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes, definitely. Yeah, as a matter of fact, the last time I had this big burnout was 5 years ago. That is huge. And I even interviewed for another job completely different. Like, I can't remember what it was. So I think discouragement is normal, but it means you care in a way. The key is, well, you either give up or not. If you do, well, that's okay. That's okay. Maybe there is a different path for you, and that's fine. But if you don't, that's fine too. Just know that you're not the only one who got discouraged, and there is help out there.
If someone's been bashing away at this for ages, I'm not talking about me, but a friend.
Mm-hmm.
But if someone was bashing away at this for ages and it wasn't getting them anywhere, do you think there's anything they should be looking for that would give them, other than divine help, a sort of an idea that they should maybe pack it in?
I think the first step, and I'm talking for me too, the first step is find one person or a few who you can really trust and sit down with them and just lay it out on the ground, like, even if it doesn't make sense, because it's in conversations with others that are not as involved as you are in your project that you will probably have a better perspective. And oftentimes it requires just little changes. Maybe you're, like, for me, for example, for a long time, I thought that I have to do a video when I started Tuesday and Friday or something at 11 a.m. every single time. And if I don't, the world's going to crash or whatever. That's just an example. But sometimes we're stuck in patterns that really bring you down and you lose the joy of creating things, and people can tell. So sometimes it's a matter of pruning the tree. You take off some things that are in your life that are just not working anymore, and you replace it with something else.
So how often do you upload now, David?
Now 3 times a week. But I set myself the rule that if I don't want to make a video, I'm just not going to make it. The weird thing, once I decided that, I wanted to do all the videos. I was happy to do it because I wasn't tied to this, almost like a slave doing it.
Well, it's very interesting you should say that, David, because I was invited along. The GMI YouTube channel's got a massive 1,065 or something subscribers. And it's... Yeah. Just as I passed the 1,000 mark a couple of months ago, I was invited by YouTube to one of their special sort of brain removal events. So I went along to that, and there was a whole bunch of us in the room. They brought the pods down and all that sort of stuff, put them on our heads. But then they were saying to people, they were asking people about YouTube. People were saying, oh, we've got to upload every day. We've got to upload every day. And I actually said, is this really very productive? You're basically saying you should be in the house, because they were in the house creating videos every single day. It sounds like to me, YouTube either want you creating videos or watching them. You're actually becoming a slave. This doesn't sound healthy.
Yeah, it's not. It's not healthy at all. That's exactly where I was. And sometimes it just takes someone else to tell you, you don't have to do this. It's okay if you don't do it. Or just try it. Like for me, I had to try not uploading a video on Wednesday and just see what happened. I had this like weird, unhealthy idea that, everything would stop, but it doesn't matter.
And where do you get your ideas from, David, for your videos? Do you have do you map out a month's production, or do you just throw a piece of grass up in the air? How does it go?
A little bit of both. But no, I started doing this a couple months ago. I've got a notepad that's always open, and whenever I have an idea and it's tied to my phone or whatever, an idea, I just write it down so I can always go back. Ideally, this is the dream. I'd love, because I heard a YouTube friend from Australia, who's done that. He's got a year of content planned already. It's already filmed.
Wow.
And that's awesome. The dream.
Yeah.
And I started entertaining that idea. Like, I will take like a month. That's all I do. Just film, and edit. And then I'm done for a year. Love the idea, but I need the ideas. So what I did is uploaded a video a month ago saying, if you guys have any ideas, let me know. And go to this link, and it's tied to a Google form, and they enter all their ideas, like the title of the video, what it's about, the category. And then that way, if I'm out of ideas, I just go and pick and see what happens. To answer your question, it's a little both. Some are planned, some are random.
I always find I've got millions of ideas. The hardest bit about the whole process, because I've got a green screen room, the hardest bit, without a doubt, is actually switching the camera on.
That's true. Yeah, it's very true. There's always, you did it at the beginning of the show. I do this all the time. Like, you had to get in the zone, right? Before we started recording. I do that all the time too. Actually, one day I should upload a video completely unedited, and people will see like what happens.
An interesting idea. I always tell my own students, and that when I always feel it's important that people hear music all the time, they don't appreciate it. So on a performance, especially if it's a solo, if I'm doing a solo thing, or if it's a solo piece within a band context, give it about 5 to 10 seconds, just doing nothing.
Yeah.
And that draws people in.
Mm-hmm.
Talking, they start looking, oh, what's he doing? Oh, he's not doing anything. What's he going to do? And then you start playing, and they're much more likely to listen more. Maybe we should start up.
Everything that you've said, like musically, I think we think very much alike. It's awesome.
I've just read everything about you. Absolutely everything about you. I'm just reading off a script here.
Oh yeah,
it's totally fake. I'm reading off a script.
Maybe we just don't think alike at all, but you're just like playing a character.
This is it. So your absolute dream, then, I am guessing from what you said, is kind of a mix of both, where you're able to be creative and create new albums and write new music, as well as teach people. Would that be a good stab in the right direction, David?
I think so, yeah. And yes, definitely. And it all comes to freedom, really. And the biggest for me has been lack of freedom to do those things was the financial aspect. And that's why I think the previous 9 years have been trying to get to a place where some things are set up so that they allow me to maybe explore other things that don't pay, but that are really fun. Not that I'm not having fun doing the YouTube thing, but
with different people, you get different vibes. But I can honestly say, David, that this has been one of the most enjoyable interviews I've ever had.
Thank you very much. That means a lot.
It's really great. It's great when you feel you can just open up and be silly.
Yeah.
That the person's not going to be take offense or anything. Is there anything else that I haven't really asked you about life online as a musician that you feel a good interviewer would have asked you?
I think you did a fantastic job covering everything.
I'll send you the money later.
Okay.
But is there anything that really you would just like to say to the listeners in closing about life online as a musician?
Yeah, I will say, if you feel like really overwhelmed with the amount of information that you can get, whether it's business, music, or whatever, take a break. And it's during that time of break offline, couple days, whatever it takes, it's then that your brain is going to automatically kind of sort out what's really important to you. And that's what you should focus on. Don't worry about following to the T a letter, a business plan that someone else wrote that works for him, because you're you. And I say that with music too all the time. Like, find who you are, find what your goals are, what makes you happy. And once you have defined that, if you need help from someone else to set up your path towards that, that's fine. But it needs to start from you instead of just following what another guy did. Because then you compare things, you become jealous. I've had that. Like, I've been jealous of the people. It's unhealthy, makes you sad, and nobody can do it the way you do it. I say that on my videos all the time, but it's true.
That's exactly what I was taking from everything you said. I mean, everybody wants an out-the-box solution, don't they, David? But the truth of it is that everyone's different. Every single way of actually getting to somewhere that's successful, there is a different path for everyone, grasshopper.
Yeah, that's right. And find what makes you happy and go with that in the business world or music world. Okay,
well, thanks very much, David, for spending the time with me. It's been an absolute pleasure. David Wallimann, away over there in Colorado. Thank you, David.
Thank you so much.
Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed that interview. I certainly did. David is a great guy who's doing great things over there in America and reaching people all over the world. And hopefully you'll have found a lot of information and advice that can help you take your channel forward. The biggest thing for me was that there is no single one-size-fits-all solution. If you enjoy our podcasts, please consider supporting us through our Patreon page. The link is on each individual episode. So from me, Jed Brockey, thanks for listening in. Hopefully I'll have your company very soon on the next one. Until then, goodbye.